Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I am Tenitra. This is Jarvis, and we always appreciate you guys letting us know what's good. And how do you do that? By giving us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcast. So when you check us out, make sure you let us know what you think. And also keep on subscribing to us on our YouTube channel and do that across all of Locked On Sports Network, but especially give us a like and let us know your comments because we actually do check them out and take them seriously. So we appreciate you for that. And you know what else we take seriously? The positive side of whatever goes on in sports country in Atlanta. So we're going to take the positive side for the Braves. We know that they lost 4-3 yesterday off of a complete game from Sandy Alcantara. But
Hmm.
ultimately speaking, it was still not a bad game, just in terms of, hey, they tried to mount a comeback in the ninth inning, the Braves did. And even though Ian Anderson gave up 3 unearned runs and a couple of walks, he struck out 6. So there's
Yes.
still something positive. And look, Jarvis, just 2 walks. Okay, so there's something positive. And you won the series. You won the
Yeah.
series. A month ago, the Marlins won the series. So now at least you're even in that space, coming in at 19 and 22. That's like your first third, if you will, Jarvis, of kind of this 10-game stretch of divisional games that could be pivotal and critical for the Braves. So still not a bad way to start that 4-game set, end that series when you think about them coming back home to start a 4-game set versus the Marlins. So I'll start, or excuse me, versus the Phillies. So I'll start there, Jarvis. What was maybe the takeaway for you from the series against the Marlins? So, for example, was it the fact that they won the series? Or was it the fact that the offense sputtered in the game that they lost? Or is it something else that was your big takeaway?
I think the series win is something that you have to kind of take a look at, right? Because when you talk about how they only won 2 series the entire year, and this is their first road series win of the
Yes.
season, in this baby season. We're still in the baby stages, I guess. I guess that's kind of fair to say. But
Yes.
I think just overall, when you think about how they started off, like Bronny got out to a hot start on Friday, and then
Hmm.
William Contreras carried him on Saturday with two
Yeah.
home runs. So those are the type of things that we talked about before on the show, and
Hmm.
like having not necessarily the name guys coming through for you, especially when you're
Hmm.
talking about an entire series. Now
Yeah.
Ronald nephew went hard the whole series. He batted 455 in the
Oh,
three
yeah.
game set, so he was locked in and ready to go. But
Hmm.
when you have a guy like Contreras come in who is absolutely tearing it up when he is out on the field,
Yes.
or behind the plate, catching for
Hmm.
for the Braves. I,
Yeah.
I think that when you get that type of production from guys like that, that's how you
Hmm.
know when you're probably going to start to gain some momentum because
Yeah.
when one does well, I think a lot of people that gives a lot of people incentive to for them to start doing well also.
Exactly. And when you look at the performance that you got out of Charlie Morton, when you look at the performance that you got out of Kyle Wright, those are still positive takeaways from those games that you won. And again, you mentioned a great word, which was momentum, and taking that momentum into this next 7 games in the division and how critical that can be. Now, the other thing you said was, basically this is like a little sample size, right, for us because
Yeah,
we're still relatively speaking, early on in the season, right?
right.
We're literally only like what 41 games in at this point.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing that I came across, and I said, my one good positive takeaway was just like yours: a series win and a series win on the road, and it's in the division. We'll take it because you never know how tight this race might get at the end of the season, and that could bode well for you, right? The
Right.
other piece there is that you had your starters lasting long enough to be able to say start a Tucker Davidson tonight
Yes.
and get
Yes.
hopefully another good start out of him. But the other piece that kind of sort of made me pause a little bit was the fact that the Braves will still potentially have to go 31 games over 500 for the rest of the season to actually win the division. Because remember, we were looking last week at where each team in the division was, and really across Major League Baseball, but particularly this division in terms of expected wins. Braves are still right there, kind of where they were expected to be. Mets are just slightly ahead of where they were supposed to be, and I believe Phillies are just 1 game behind where they were supposed to be. So still in a good space, but ultimately, Jarvis, when you think about something like that, you gotta literally go 31 games over 500 to
Wow.
win the division, and we know how difficult it is in that wild card round. in
Yes.
yeah in MLB.
And you know what? Because it's a one shot deal, right? And
Hmm.
and you never know. One of your guys, your
I
starting,
mean,
your ace might have a bad night,
yes,
or your entire lineup is
yeah,
just absolutely just tanking. You just don't
right.
know what's going to happen. A lot of times in those series, once you get into the series of portion of the playoffs, like most of the time, 9 times out of 10, the best team is going to win. And
Hmm.
when you talking about the type of lineup that the Braves have, and you're talking about how the pitching staff and how they've been going as of late, and
Hmm.
they've been really, really starting to come around, and
Yes.
that rotation is really starting to take form.
Hmm.
Early on, right now before Memorial Day, because that's always been the barometer, right? A lot of people think like, oh, okay, just wait till Memorial Day to see what's going
Right.
on, but
Yep.
this is like that's next
Memorial
week.
Day.
Yeah, right. We are coming up on
The
Memorial Day
weekend.
very,
Yeah.
very quickly.
Down,
So,
yeah. Right around the corner here.
so those are the type of things that that you have to really, really pay attention to because
Mhm.
they're 8 games back, and when you think about it, like man, like they have to go 31 games over 500. Like when you start thinking long term,
Yeah.
yeah, they are in a deep, steep hole, and I think right now you can't look at it like that. You kind of just
Hmm.
kind of look at it from series to series. All right,
Yeah.
let's get this series win
Yeah.
against the Phillies.
Yeah.
Like
Just chip
if
away
we can
at it.
go 3-1, that
Hmm.
would be great because they're essentially, like you said earlier, they have the same record. The 19, both
Yep.
of the teams are 19 and 22,
Hmm.
and both of them are 8 games back behind the New York Mets. So
Yes.
you just pray and hope that the Mets start the Mets, and you start
Yeah. Yeah.
winning these series, and I
Right.
think that you'll find yourself. When July comes around, you're like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. We're only 4 games back.
Yes.
That's manageable. That's doable. So, and I think that should be the goal going forward.
Yeah, and then the Braves, that'll show us the Braves start to brave, and then that'll also be that moment in
Yes.
time where Alex Anthopoulos starts doing his work and getting in the lab and deciding whether or not he needs to make some moves. The other thing I like that I saw is this: the Braves literally have had the eighth toughest schedule in Major League Baseball so far this season. So when you put it in context, in addition to what you just said in terms of them just being 8 games back of the Mets at this time, and you know the Mets are probably going to Met at some point,
Right.
the fact that then the Braves are now shifting into a part of the season where they're going to have the fifth easiest schedule, right? Through the
Right.
rest of the season. That's another thing where I like what you said, which is chip away here and there with what it is that you can do to kind of whittle away at the Mets lead and kind of maybe put distance between yourself and the rest of the division, and also put distance hopefully between you and some of the wild card teams, so that if you happen to have to go the wild card route, heck, at least you're hosting.
Right.
That would be ideal. But ultimately speaking, when you think about strength of schedule, and we talk about strength of schedule in every league, that actually could bode well, because if you were able to come through one of the toughest schedules in the league and still be kind of hovering right there at 500, and you're about to go into a season where you're hovering at you're at number 5 in terms of the fifth toughest schedule in the league. I think that that is something that could put the Braves in good position. And we talked about this before, the fact that right now Travis Demeritte is holding it down, holding on for dear life in right field, because he ain't holding it down at the plate these days,
Yeah,
but he's
that's
holding
very
it down right.
optimistic, T.
Yeah, but he's kind of, holding on for dear life, until
Oh
Ronald Acuna
man.
Jr. can get it all the way together and kind of get it
Right.
complete, because what he's doing at the plate is wonderful. But we know that the five tools is what you
Yeah.
look for in Acuna Jr.'s game. So when all those pieces come together, hopefully this weekend and even this entire week, hopefully we still see them continue to build towards that, and we'll see a better Braves team going into this next phase of the season, and hopefully ultimately the season. But when we talk about the best of and just getting better as the season goes on, how about when you get better as your life goes on? Because just like fine wine, you stay amazing. You just stay amazing. And we're going to talk about the person who started off just giving us an amazing, amazing, just blueprint to go by. And now she's finally going to get her flowers in this day. So you want to know who we're talking about? You know what to do. Come back on the other side. It's For the Culture right here on ATL Day Ones.